Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Movie Time with Chris. Last night I had the opportunity to watch Top Gun Maverick, and what an amazing film this was. It was. Took my breath away. But let's go ahead and get right into this video. I've made some notes to make sure I stay on topic. Uh, So let's go ahead and start. So today we're going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick, and we're going to be comparing it to the original Top Gun from 1986. So with that comparison, I will say that this video will have some minor spoilers. So you have been warned. Um, yeah, so the movie, I got to watch it last night at 12 o'clock. After previews, it started at about 12:30. I just worked all day, but you know what? This movie got me so pumped and ready for it that I didn't even care that it was middle of the night when I was getting to watch it. The movie is just that good. Uh, the one thing that I was really glad that they were able to do with this movie, Top Gun Maverick, is have Val Kilmer in the movie, reprising his role as Iceman, but working into the movie the battle that Val Kilmer had with throat cancer, and working that into the story. I appreciate that. I like that. I'm glad that he was able to be in the movie. It definitely added a lot of emotion and nostalgia to it. So that was one thing that, regardless of anything else that could be said about this movie, I feel like everyone can appreciate what it is that they were able to do with Val Kilmer in this film. But the one thing I've heard from the people that were able to see this movie on premieres and red carpets and things like that is, aside from the fact of how amazing this movie is, you don't need to see the original to enjoy this movie. If you just watch this movie, they fill in everything that you need from the original. It can stand alone, on its own as its own movie without needing anything from the original. But if you have seen the original 1986 Top Gun, you definitely get that fan service, that nostalgia that makes you that much more attached to this film and gets you more emotionally involved and invested in these characters and what it is that they're going through. Even from the opening scene to the very end, you you feel like you're. How can I describe it? If you can remember the feeling that you had when you first watched Top Gun 1986, and if you're watching this one now, you get that feeling amplified. Um, they did a really good job with it. Now, we thought that this movie was going to be more about drones. That was the rumor that was going around. It was possibly, aerial combat is moving towards drones, but they, Maverick is trying to get them to say that dogfighting is better. Well, that's not the storyline. Drones do play an aspect in it, but in this movie, it's called Top Gun. They go back to Top Gun. They are learning the dog fighting. In the original, they're flying the F-14 Tomcat, versus the MiG-28. Whereas with this one, they're flying the F-18 Super Hornet against these fifth generation fighters. It's like a Su-57 something. But I mean the aerial scenes are just absolutely breathtaking, and the aerial fights, whew, goosebumps. But the one dislike that I had about this movie, really the only dislike that I had about this movie, is the predictability of this film. I found that it was very very predictable, and as to why, we're going to go ahead and talk about that right now. Um, Top Gun Maverick is essentially Top Gun in today's era. You get characters that are reminiscent of what you had in the original. You get some plots and stories that are the same as the original. You get scenes that are almost mirror images of the original. And we'll talk about some of those right now. Um, some of the scenes that I'm talking about that are a mirror image from Maverick and original is the piano scene. Goose in a Hawaiian shirt with the aviator sunglasses, sitting down, playing Great Balls of Fire on the piano. You get that scene here in Top Gun. And when you're introduced to Goose's son, Rooster, who's played by Miles Teller, he sits down at the piano with a Hawaiian shirt, aviator sunglasses, everyone around playing Great Balls of Fire. And it's like the exact same scene. And I get why they did it. They want to trigger the memory in Maverick's mind. But it was identical. In the original, one of the most iconic scenes that they had in the movie that ended up playing a huge part on it that everyone just likes is the scene. The scene is titled "Playing with the Boys," and it's the beach volleyball scene. With Slider and Iceman versus Maverick and Goose, and it became such a scene to think of, and they tried to recreate it with this, where instead of volleyball, they're playing football on the beach. Some weird naval aviator football where you're playing offense and defense at the exact same time. But, that it felt very reminiscent and very much like they were trying to recreate what worked in 1986. And the characters. There are so many of the characters and their stories that are reminiscent of what you get in the original, almost down to some of the lines that they say are the exact lines that were used in the original. Some of the comparisons would be like Tom Cruise in this movie. Tom Cruise is essentially Viper, Tom Skerritt's character from 1986 Top Gun. Hangman in this movie is supposed to be like Iceman from the original. Rooster is supposed to be more like Maverick. Phoenix is supposed to be like Goose. And some of the things that happen with their characters and their character's story and their character's arc is reminiscent of what you get from those mirrored characters from the original. So that was my big flaw that I found with the film, was just how much they were trying to recreate the first one, but in today's era. But if you go into this if you haven't seen the first one before, if you haven't seen it in 30 plus years since it came out, you can go into this and really appreciate this movie and walk out hyped and pumped and, oh my God, what a good movie this was. They had an opportunity with the film to alter from the story of the original. And I kind of thought that that's where they were going to go at one point. But then I stepped back and I said, no, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. And it, I don't know. I guess it took something from the movie. You did get a happier ending, so to speak, but there's still heartbreak and loss that is felt in this movie, but not to the extent that you got in the 1986 Top Gun. I'm not going to spoil it fully as to what happens with that, but there is some heartbreak, there is some loss, but overall it's a happier ending. But I've got to say, the one thing that made this movie just feel oh my God, so amazing, is, like I mentioned earlier, the aerial scenes. All those aerial battles. Tom Cruise created a flight program for these actors where they were actually in these planes doing the flying. They essentially were filming themselves. They had to, start the camera, do their lines, stop the camera, uh, do their editing, do everything, come back down, land, and then the director would go through and see if it was a good take, or they'd have to go back up and do it again. So they're actually flying these planes. Whereas in the original, yeah, they were in the planes, but someone else was flying, and it was very toned down. In this movie, the very beginning, before the movie even starts, you get Tom Cruise, and he's saying that a lot of work went into this movie. Everything was done in real time, real life. Like, they're experiencing those G forces. They're making those turns and everything that you see in the movie. So, I think that realness added a lot to this movie, and that's what made this movie just so amazing. And I've got to say, as far as an action storyline movie, this is probably the best one that I've seen in a while. Not even just this year, probably in a while. I don't know if it's the best movie that I've seen this year, but as far as action, head and shoulders above the rest. Top Gun Maverick. The movie is playing in theaters. It was shot in IMAX. I'm trying to see if I can go see it in IMAX to really get the full aspect of it. But just watching it in a regular format movie theater was absolutely amazing. So go to your theater, check this movie out, and when you do, let me know what you think of it. Make sure you come back and comment down below and leave your thoughts on Top Gun Maverick. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel, ring that bell so you're alerted for future videos, give this video a thumbs up. Until next time, stay safe and take care.